Ah, ah.
Hello.
दादा सर बोला. दादा सर बोला.
जाधव सर बोला. जाधव सर.
Hello. Oh,
Ah.
shall we continue?
Yes, sir. Continue. Please continue.
Okay. So we discussed two important characteristics of romantic poetry before the break. And the two were revolt against tradition, love for nature, and their emphasis on expression of emotional and imaginative power. Now, the third characteristic of the romantic poetry is their love for countryside. As we know that in classical age, poetry was remained only in London city, and these romantic poets pulled away pulled away poetry out of London city and took it to the different corners of England, in the countryside of the England. And that's why we find these themes selected by the romantic poets. They were about the countryside, about peasant, about the solitary reaper, William Wordsworth. Very, very beautiful poem about a solitary reaper, a countryside girl working in the field. She bent over the sickle. She was cutting the grain and singing a song at the same time. And such a number of poems about common man, common women, human beings, those who are common, their love for common, humble people is clearly expressed in the poetry, and that's why the third important characteristic was the love for common man. The fourth characteristic of the romantic poetry is the variety of themes and styles. One can find when one reads romantic poetry and when we read William Wordsworth, B.B. Shelley, S.T. Coleridge, John Keats, then we feel that we are traveling from one city to another city, from one state to another state, from one tourist place to another tourist place. Such are the variety of themes, subjects selected by these poets. William Wordsworth, he liked nature, he selected his subjects from nature. On the other hand, P.B. Shelley, he was also interested in nature, but at the same time, he focused on the life of the people in real life. And that's why in Ode to the West Wind, he appeals to the West Wind by crying absolutely the wind. He, oh, oh, lift me. I have fallen on thorns of life. I bleed. The appeal was that I have fallen on thorns of life. Thorns of life. Which are the thorns of life? Disease, anxiety, worry, suffering, pain, and so many problems of human life. They are the thorns of life. These thorns torture us, cut our body, and that's why the poet says, I bleed. Oh, lift me. I have fallen on thorns of life. but he also personifies the west wind, and he forces the west wind to say that be my lyre, and if you help me to bring in my principles in the reality, then definitely he concludes the poem with two beautiful lines. If winter is there, spring is not far. If winter is there, spring is not far behind, and this is very symbolic. Winter stands for sorrow. Winter storm stands for death. In England, the winter conditions are so worst that it is always difficult for human beings to survive, and that's why winter is symbolized as sorrow, death. On the other hand, this spring, this season is so lovely, so joy, so beautiful, and that it stands for joy. It stands for happiness. If sorrow is there in our life today, don't worry, don't bother, because it's like a cycle. If sorrow is there, tomorrow there will be a joy. So his themes, his style is different. William Wordsworth's theme style is different, and S.T. Coleridge is again totally different, because S.T. Coleridge, he loved supernaturalism. Now, what is supernaturalism? That's the next characteristic that we will discuss later on in just about a minute. That we will discuss about that supernaturalism. But Coleridge's style, Coleridge's technique was totally different from P.B. Shelley and William Wordsworth. And then again, when we turn to John Keats, we find a totally different style, different technique. His sensuous beauty is his special hallmark of John Keats. Sensuous beauty, that means the beauty enjoyed by our senses, beauty enjoyed by the sound, by hearing, beauty enjoyed by eyes, by seeing, beauty enjoyed by touch. All these sensuous beauty beautifully expressed by John Keats in most of his poems, whether it is Ode to a Nightingale or whether it is Ode on a Grecian Urn or any other poem. His one very popular and one very famous poem, La Belle Damson's Mercy, is a wonderful example of his love for supernaturalism. Of course, that we will discuss in supernaturalism. So these poets selected themes of their choice, subjects of their likes, and treated those subjects in their own wonderful style, and that makes the romantic poetry distinguished from the other movement in the history of poetry. Now, the next characteristic of romantic poetry is their love for supernatural. The supernaturalism means something which is not natural, something beyond the human ability that becomes supernatural. For example, ghost. The concept of ghost is supernatural. And S.T. Coleridge, he was master of using supernaturalism. His supernaturalism is so beautiful that when we interpret the supernaturalism looks natural. And the best example of S.T. Coleridge's supernaturalism is his poem Kubla Khan. Kubla Khan was a poem which he composed when the poet was ill. When S.T. Coleridge was ill, his health was not good, and doctor had asked him to take a complete rest. And so he was resting on his farmhouse. He was sitting in an armchair reading a book, and the book was about the great king Kubla Khan and about his palace. Kubla Khan had built a huge dome, huge palace, miraculous palace. And he was reading about that particular palace. Doctor has prescribed some drugs for Coleridge, and Coleridge had swallowed those drugs. And because of that, the intoxication induced sleep. And he read some part of the book, then slept, got up again, started reading again, and again go to sleep. And slept. And because of that, he composed that poem into pieces. In one piece, he describes the huge, miraculous palace of Kublai Khan. And in the second part, he expressed his desire that I want to build such a palace. I want to build Kublai Khan palace in the air. He was willing to build a palace in the air. And he was willing to build a palace not with the help of cement, brick, but he was willing to build a palace with a music of Abyssinian made. Building a palace in the air, building it with the help of Abyssinian made music, all this is strange. How can one build a palace in the air? But when we try to interpret it, Abyssinian made, the music produced by the Abyssinian made stands for poetry. He wanted to build a palace with the help of poetry. Poetry, that means his poetic skill. Because of illness, Coleridge had lost his skill, poetic skill. And that's why he said, if I could reproduce, that means if I could regain my poetic skills, then I shall write wonderful poem on Kublai Khan palace. The poem will be published and it will be shared by many people in the world. This publication and sharing means building the palace in the air. Such beautiful idea of supernaturalism. And when people will read that poem, people will read about Kublai Khan's poem, then they will be surprised. They will be shocked. What a poem! What a gift! And they will express their view in surprise. They will say, "Oh, beware of this man! Beware of this man! He had honeydew. He had faith. He is not a common person. He is not a common poet. He is a divinely gifted poet. Such is the supernaturalism. Such is the love for supernaturalism." John Keats, he also used supernaturalism in one of his very, very beautiful poem, lovely poem, La Belle Dame Sans Mercy. In fact, we need a special lecture to discuss this poem. Such is the beautiful poem. This ballad, composed by John Keats, is about a knight at arms, a military ranked officer. Ranked officer in the military. Poet was wandering through the moods in the countryside, and he saw the knight at arms loitering around the hills all alone. The condition of the knight at arms was very strange, wretched, wrecked. He was unhappy, lost all his brightness, lost all his strength. And the poet was not able to understand what was the reason for him to loiter there, to wander around those hills. He asked a number of questions to the knight at arms, and then the knight at arms narrated the story of the lady whom he had met. That lady, as indicated in the title, La Belle Dame. She was young and beautiful lady. But this young and beautiful lady was sans mercy, was without mercy. She was shrewd, and that's why we find her treatment to the knighted arms. She sang songs, but those were fairy songs. She expressed her love, but in a strange language.
जाधव सर 2 मिनिटं. जाधव
Yes.
सर
Oh,
2 मिनिटं प्लीज.
हो बोला.
सर्व उपस्थित प्राध्यापक, विद्यार्थी व पालक मित्रांनो, आमच्या संस्थेचे कार्याध्यक्ष व नवापूर विधानसभेचे विद्यमान आमदार माननीय श्री दादा नाईक आपल्यात उपस्थित झाले आहे. त्यांचे मी महाविद्यालयाच्या वतीने हार्दिक स्वागत करतो. वेलकम दादा, वेलकम.
Welcome, Dada.
सर प्लीज कॅरी ऑन.
Shall I? Yeah. Okay. So the supernaturalism was beautifully used by John Keats, S.T. Coleridge, and that made the romantic poetry even attractive, thrilling, exciting. We find that the romantic poets, they used their skill, their emotional, imaginative power, and make romantic poetry exciting, thrilling, beautiful, and really romantic to watch. All the poets, William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, E.B. Shelley, John Keats, Southey, Robert Burns, William Blake, they all contributed to this new movement started in 1798 and continued up to 1835. Romantic poetry, with the mark of their love for nature, love for common man, love for countryside, their love for their own choice, their own style, their own selection of the subject. And because of that, romantic poetry, this movement became one of the prominent movement in the history of English poetry. And we really enjoy each and every poem of romantic era. And they were indeed, the poets, they were so stylish, so emotional, and that's why their poems directly touch us. When P.B. Shelley cries, "Oh, lift me, I have fallen on thorns of life, I bleed," these words directly go and touch us. The last, but not the least characteristic of romantic poetry is the sensuous beauty, their appeal to the senses.
दादा बोलणार त्यांचं म्यूट मी अनम्यूट करायला लावतो मग.
The
ओके
hello. The sensuous beauty is one of the another characteristics of romantic poetry, and this was practiced especially by John Keats. John Keats is known for his sensuous beauty, the beauty enjoyed by the sense. And the best example is of Ode to a Nightingale. Nightingale is a bird, a beautiful, known for his beautiful songs. The songs are so sweet, so melodious, that the poet says that because of your melodious, beautiful song. My entire body is benumbed. I have lost all my senses. And that is the sense of touch. And then he says, but I want to enjoy your company and fly with you. But how can I fly? You have wings. I don't have wings. And then he suddenly gets the idea of flying with the bird with the help of consumption of alcohol. By consuming wine, I can fly with you. But then quickly, he says no. The intoxication will remain for some time. And then I could not enjoy the company of the bird. I want to enjoy the company of the bird for a long time. And suddenly he says, what? Why should we look for any other? I have my own wings. I have my own wings of poesy, wings of imagination. I can fly with the bird. And immediately the poet starts with flying with the bird with the help of wings of imagination. He imagines that I am flying with the bird. And he enters into the dense forest. The forest is so thick, so dense, that the poet could not see anything. But still, he can identify the flower, he can identify the fruit only because of their smell. Sensuous beauty. The beauty experienced and enjoyed by senses is called sensuous beauty. In another poem, Ode on Agrarian Earth, the poet has beautifully expressed the sensuous beauty, and along with that, he has also given a different message that life depicted in art is far better than the life in real condition. The real life, the life depicted in art is far better than real life. Ode on a Grecian Earth is a poem which is about the pictures carved on the surface of a pot. And there was one picture. Under the tree, the two lovers were there. They stand very close to each other. But the poet says, oh, he says to the lover that you are the most unfortunate lover on the earth. Because you stand so near to the goal and yet so far away from it. You stand very close to your beloved and yet you cannot touch her. You cannot kiss her. You are really unfortunate. Because the painting that doesn't move. And the pictures in the picture, the characters in the picture, they don't move. And that's why he stands very near to his beloved, but cannot touch her, cannot kiss her. In real life, we can touch, we can kiss. And so he says, unfortunate, but then immediately says, oh, but you are the luckiest chap. Because though you cannot touch her, though you cannot kiss her, but you will enjoy her company forever. She will never depart. She will never go away from you, and you will enjoy the company, and your beloved will remain beautiful forever. That is life depicted in art. Life depicted in art is different from real life. In real life, we can touch our beloved, we can kiss our beloved, but sometimes she will depart. She will lose her beauty, her charm. And that's the beauty of expression of John Keats. Because of such beautiful expressions, romantic poetry is really forces the readers to get intoxicated like a stick or a reed, forces the reader to cry out like baby Sally, and started to worship like William Wordsworth, and get benumbed like John Keats. Enjoy romantic poetry, thrill, excitement, and a joy to read poetry. That's romantic poetry. Well, read it and enjoy it. Before I sum up my lecture, let me say thanks to the principal of our college, Dr. A.G. Jaiswal, the vice principal, and the in charge of YCMU, Vajibadari sir, Anil Patil sir, and all my ACS family members for organizing such beautiful webinar lecture series. I think in the beginning, as I'm far away from there were some technical problems, so I sorry for that. So you have to wait for my lecture, and finally, I just say thank you to all, and I say stay home, stay safe. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
जाधव सर.
Yanni?
विद्यार्थी
प्राचार्य सर येत आहेत.
बर सर बोला सर. प्राचार्य सर.
येत आहे अजून आलं नाही.
हा, बोला.
विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, कोणाला काही प्रश्न असेल तर आपण प्रश्न विचारू शकतात. आपला हात वरती करायचा आहे, म्हणजे इकडे कळेल की तुम्हाला प्रश्न विचारायचा आहे. प्लीज अनम्यूट करता येईल मला. हात वरती कर. ज्यांना काही प्रश्न असेल त्यांनी हात वरती करायचा आहे, म्हणजे मला अनम्यूट करता येईल.
Hello.
Jaiswal sir, please. Yes sir.
Okay.
Thank you participants for attending this webinar, and I extend my thanks to Professor B.P. Jadhav for sharing a very informative and studious speech. Certainly, this will be very helpful for my students to preparing for exams and as well as for their general knowledge. Thank you, B.P. Jadhav sir, for giving your valuable time for students as well as staff. I extend my gratitude to Honorable Shirish Kumar Ji Nai, who also participated in this webinar. I also thanks to my colleagues, teaching and non-teaching staff for sharing this webinar series. Friends, this is end of today's webinar, and tomorrow we are going to invite Dr. Madhav Kadam from Nandurbar district. He is a renowned professor in Marathi language, and he is going to share about Marathi literature tomorrow. So I expect your valuable presence tomorrow also. Again, I express my thanks to B.P. Jadhav and thanks to all.
सर 2 मिनिटं मला बोलायचं. 2 मिनिटं.
हा, बोला.
तर सर्व पार्टिसिपंटला विनंती आहे, ज्यांनी या आपल्या वेबिनार मध्ये याच्या अगोदरच्या ज्या 5 झाले, आजचं 6वं 5 लेक्चर अगोदर झालेत, आजचं 6वं लेक्चर होतं. ज्यांनी याच्यात सहभाग घेतलाय त्यांना सगळ्यांना माननीय प्राचार्यांनी पहिलेच डिक्लेअर केलंय की सगळ्यांना ई सर्टिफिकेट देण्यात येणार आहे. तर जे पार्टिसिपंट्स आहेत, तुम्ही सर्वांनी मी उद्या गुगल फॉर्मची एक लिंक पाठवणार आहे. त्या लिंकवर तुम्हाला रजिस्टर करायचंय. म्हणजे तो फॉर्म तुम्ही भरल्यानंतर तुमचा ईमेल आयडी आणि तुमचा मोबाईल नंबर त्याच्यात असेल, त्या मोबाईलवर त्या आयडीवर आम्हाला तुमचं ई सर्टिफिकेट पाठवणं सोपं जाईल. सर्व विद्यार्थ्यांना, सर्व पार्टिसिपंटला विनंती आहे, त्यांनी जी लिंक मी पाठवणार आहे, तो जो फॉर्म असणार आहे गुगल फॉर्म, त्याच्यावर आपली माहिती भरायची आहे. सब्बू सर.
हो सर.
Okay. Thanks to all. Thank you.